The awards were presented at a special lunch at the National Press Club in Canberra. Governor-General Bill Hayden and his wife attended. NBN took out the National Prize for Camera Work, a rare honour for regional television. The last time such an honour went to a non-capital city station was 10 years ago, when NBN was recognised for its coverage of the Star Riots.
The winner of the 1990 National Award for Camera Work is the news team from NBN Channel 3 Newcastle.
These were the scenes which shocked the nation back in December. A city which was not considered at risk lost 12 people in the quake. The damage bill is expected to top $1 billion.
It was an event that tested professionalism. Very familiar surroundings were suddenly turned upside down. Cameramen didn't know whether buildings were going to fall down with aftershocks. Nobody knew if their own homes and properties were still undamaged.
Accepting the award on behalf of the camera crew was Stuart Osland, the man who captured the picture which told the story as no words could do.
Terrible. Oh. What happened, we were all out on the road. I was actually filming and fell over during the course of it. And we were without power for about an hour and a half at the station. The city had no electricity. So we sort of operated from the cars and a bit of intuition and got to all the different places. I got back at the station about 10 to 12, and it was roughly that time that Pete O'Dell, who has got the job as the editor, would send all the pictures out that you saw. That's when our station went back on air. So on behalf of all the guys, thank you. Thank you for
NBN journalist Leslie Robinson was also recognised at today's awards. She was commended for a news report broadcast last year.
The latest Doan masterpiece is part of the world's largest painting, the brainchild of Robb College at the University of New England, as part of a very special celebration.
This project for the 30th anniversary would have to be extra big and extra special, so we picked the world's largest painting, which is mass participation involved, and there's a lot of fun to do.
The college called in aspiring artists from near and far to participate in the painting session. In all, 2,747 individual colour works were included, all inspired by the theme of children and happiness. The acrylic on calico masterpiece is more like a patchwork quilt than a painting. The overall effect can only be appreciated from the air.
I mean, I flew over this about a couple of hours ago and looked down on it, and I was staggered. I mean, to think that just a month or so ago, it seems that I had a brief meeting in my studio with some of the students from here, and now suddenly to see this coming to fruition, it's astounding.
The painting is for sale. Proceeds will be donated to the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF. And yes, the Guinness Book of Records is also looking closely at the dimensions of the finished work.
Police were called to a pocket of dense bushland at the end of South Seas Drive in Ashtonfield shortly before 10 a.m. to investigate a report of a possible stolen vehicle. Once there, they made a grisly discovery. The body was found in the boot of this car beside a blood-stained rock. The woman had suffered massive head injuries, although police say the exact cause of death won't be known until a post-mortem examination is carried out in Maitland tomorrow. Police have yet to confirm the victim's identity, although it is thought she's a 19-year-old Maitland woman last seen leaving home last night. As yet, no motive for the killing has been established.
No motive at this stage, but it's just being treated as suspicious, and no doubt detectives will be interviewing further on into the day and this evening.
Police expect to confirm the victim's identity early tomorrow. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
Clara Bevan became queen for a day. When her name was drawn out of a barrel yesterday, she found herself with $1,200 to spend on clothes, hair, shoes and cookware. As part of the red carpet treatment, a stretch limousine delivered Clara and daughters Barbara, Diane and Glenys, who entered her mother's name in the contest, to a champagne breakfast, where a rather shell-shocked Clara had time to reflect on her good fortune.
Well, you'd never believe, I just was so excited. Glenys rang and told me on the phone, and I just couldn't say anything really. I said, I think someone's just joking really. We've never won anything in our lives before.
The finale will be tonight when Clara enjoys a romantic candlelit dinner with her husband. It's not your average Mother's Day present, but then her daughters say Clara isn't your average mum.
Happy Mother's Day, Mum. We love you, Mum. We love you, Mum. Thank you.
Central didn't help their own cause in this try to Waratah. Out along the back line it went to Ross Hanlon, who kicked ahead, but in his haste to dive on the ball, Greg West couldn't control it, and his opposite number, Tony Peckin, won't score an easier try. Waratah went in again, this time through the individual brilliance of their captain, coach Craig Higgins. The little chip kick was placed to perfection. He regathered and raced through some flimsy defence to score a 4-pointer for his side. Central hit back, and from the dummy half it went out to Rock, on to West, and he made the final pass to Amos Simon, who didn't let his teammates down, and the Butcher boys were in.
The group, called Central Coast Against Chemicals, says Bayer Australia bought a chemical company called Chemcon on the North Wyong Industrial Estate in 1987. This was after the company was refused permission to establish at Kurnell in Sydney. Because Chemcon was already operating as a chemical company, Bayer was not required to submit an environmental impact statement, as long as it did not change the nature or scope of that industry. But according to the residents group, that has happened through a series of development applications approved by Wyong Shire Council.
It's our understanding, our legal advice, that in fact the planning laws of New South Wales have been circumvented in this case, that had a development application for the whole of that development been lodged right from the beginning, the company would have had to put out an environmental impact statement, and the development would have had to go through the proper planning processes.
It is believed that $12.5 million was spent on improving the plant, which formulates, warehouses and distributes agricultural and veterinary chemicals, herbicides and pesticides. The residents are concerned that adjoining wetlands could be affected in the event of a spill or accident at the plant. This was one of the reasons why Bayer was not allowed to build at Kurnell. Residents also say the area behind the Wyong plant is being developed as a residential estate. Now Bayer Australia and Wyong Shire Council are hoping for a settlement before the case is heard in the Land and Environment Court in September. Rebecca Skinner, NBN News. Last night, around 60 West End shopkeepers got together for the first time to publicly air the problems that are devastating their trade. One is earthquake-damaged buildings, especially the Pink Elephant complex, where traffic is funnelled into one lane. Buses are being diverted, leaving the West End the dead end of the city. Council has given a 3-week deadline for work to be carried out on that building. Parking is also difficult along Hunter Street, though traders are hoping that 1-hour meters will be extended to 2 hours within a month.
The traders all agree that the regeneration of this honeysuckle goods yard site is just the boost that they need. But for most, decisions are coming too slow and their losses are too heavy to carry.
Particularly with the pink elephant market out of action, there's no Franklins, there's no butcher, greengrocer that were in those premises, and the inactivity there has crippled us during the day. Yes, our daytime traffic's very poor.
Yes, we've had a downturn in trade, Rebecca. We've had upwards of a 50% drop in turnover.
At today's City Centre Committee meeting, it was agreed that something must be done, and quickly.
The idea is to bring the traders together, share their problems on the one hand, but also to publish and promote their businesses as the one entity, the one shopping entity, and encourage people into that area of the city.
And traders all have their own ideas about how this should be done.
I think the opportunity is now presented for the West End to develop itself in another form, and that perhaps could be to include having artists come in, potters, all sorts of those sort of related people, develop some small plazas, do some tree planting, and basically turn the West End along Hunter Street into towards a gateway for the central business district at the other end.
Staff at the Blackbutt Reserve were devastated today as they inspected the cages left empty by last night's break-in. Thieves used bolt cutters to force their way into the cages where they stole or killed almost 50 native birds.
We're very disappointed. I know the staff are greatly disappointed in the fact that we've been robbed of so many beautiful birds, and I don't think many of them can be replaced.
A series of break-ins over the last 10 years has seriously depleted the Blackbutt collection, which rangers say was finally recovering before this latest incident. The thieves knew what they were doing, concentrating on the more valuable species such as Major Mitchell's, king parrots and corellas. Still, staff at the reserve are certain juveniles were responsible.
It wasn't clean cut like the usual professional who comes in and steals our birds. We've had them stolen on a large number of occasions. This is just one of the current ones, but it's rather devastating because we're so low in numbers at this particular stage.
Police have asked the public to be wary of anyone illegally selling native birds or neighbours who may have acquired a large bird collection overnight. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
Fire investigators believe a burning cigarette caught curtains alight in the van. The 52-year-old pensioner, Dennis Poyle, was trapped inside with the door and all windows locked. Police believe he was overcome by the smoke. Luckily, neighbours saw the flames and rushed to his aid. They busted through a side window and were able to reef open the door and drag the men out. He was taken to Belmont Hospital with smoke inhalation and lacerations. Charlestown Police have commended the couple next door for their bravery in the rescue.
It was traditional percussion music of Java, Indonesia, and the main performers were the gamelan group Suara Naga, but they were helped along by the enthusiasm of students and their impressive hands-on participation. For one member of the group, all students from Armidale's University of New England, it was a chance to go back to school, and her own one at that. Alison Johnston is a past pupil of Newcastle High. She and her colleagues, both Australian and Indonesian, travel around Australia, enriching the musical knowledge of school children. They were introduced to the Javanese instrument, the gamelan, and delicate bamboo music, as well as intricate Balinese songs. But it was the monkey music that really required the students' full attention and imagination. Tomorrow the group performs at the University of Newcastle.
about a metre. A metre this way. That's all.
It's a problem common to many suburbs, school-aged and young unemployed people with nothing to do and no place to go. Complaints of hooliganism, underage drinking, drug use and break-ins are often heard in Boolaroo.
All I see is kids walking up and down the street. They don't actually come in, might just come in for a drink or so, but they obviously haven't got any money to buy pizza. But yeah, they're just walking around the streets, you know.
But this is one suburb where the teenagers have had enough, and they want to do their bit to clean up the streets. Last night they elected a committee and started a petition which they'll present to the Lake Macquarie City Council. They want to convert the old library building in Boolaroo to a no drink, no drugs drop-in centre.
They don't go to the pub and there's no fighting or drugs or anything like that on the streets. I reckon it'll be all right, no vandalism, I reckon it'll be all right.
Well, they've got nowhere else to go. They can all go there, get together, talk, just have fun without being in trouble.
If it's not run by the right people, it could be another hangout joint for them, sort of, and crime could form from that. But if the right people are running it, I think so. I have to give it a go.
A number of local businesses have offered their support, but the plan still has a long way to go before it meets council and police approval. Last Thursday, the 25-metre motor launch Captain Phillip was towed to Port Stephens. Its crew of 5 reported it was sinking off Seal Rocks. In an all-day operation, the rescue helicopter ferried pumping equipment to the disabled boat, and 2 police launches escorted it safely to port through rising seas. The alarm was raised again on Sunday night for 2 young men overdue from a fishing trip off the Central Coast. After an all-night ordeal, their small boat was located by the 60-miler Waratah and towed to Nora Head by a police boat. Their motor and radio had failed. Soon after this, rescue services were on the alert again, this time for the crew of the 12.5-metre yacht She's Apples, reported sinking off Foster. Its 2-man crew had abandoned ship and spent 10 hours in an inflatable life raft. Aircraft from Williamtown RAF base was scrambled, but it was the patient work of the Newcastle police on board the Intrepid who spotted flares just before 6 o'clock last night. A helicopter pinpointed the raft 30 nautical miles off Port Stephens. 2 yachtsmen and their raft were taken on board the Intrepid, which returned to Newcastle at midnight.
The water police, they did a wonderful job in locating us, and they were very patient, and they were there for quite a long time before they could see our first flare, which we could only fire at after the sun went down.
Water police have urged boat owners to ensure that engines, radios and safety equipment are in good order before setting out, and that someone on land knows where the boat is going and when it's due back.
The Newcastle Workers' Club was the focus of national and international attention on December 28th with the tragic loss of life and property. Now, with what remains of the King Street site ready to be demolished for a rebuilding program, club staff tallied the stock and ended an era.
Everything's coming to an end. We thought that when the earthquake came, but now this is just sort of like it's a complete end.
More than 800 separate items were for sale, kitchen equipment which once served the club's restaurants, hundreds of metres of carpet, stained glass windows, even the fire hose. Downstairs in the cellar, 500 cartons of beer and 100 cartons of wine.
And then we say at 20, that's no money, and out we go, 20, at 20, here's your chance to buy a part of history.
Bidders came from other clubs and restaurants. Some people were just looking for a bargain for the home. In total, $150,000 worth of equipment was sold.
After nearly 5 months, the last earthquake victim from Royal Newcastle Hospital goes home. Norm Duffy lost his wife and suffered massive leg injuries in the disaster. Now he says it's time to get on with his life.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.